This is Elizabeth Baldwin. I'm the Agriculture and Natural Resources Extension Agent in Page County, and I am for the soil because it's the basis of all life here on planet Earth.
It is my pleasure to welcome everyone to this episode of For the Soil, a Conversation. I'm your host, Jeff Ishee. Eric Benfelt and Mary Sketch Bryant will be joining us with a special guest in just a moment, but I wanted to remind everyone that Earth Day is coming up at the end of April, and it is a day that we can all work together to improve the environment, even in our own neighborhood, on our own farms, in our own backyards, improve soil health. So keep in mind that Earth Day is coming up in late April. Also, a quick reminder about the new video series that are being highlighted at our website, forthesoil.org. That's the digit 4, thesoil.org. And there you just click on blog and you'll see a multitude of new videos as part of the Soil for Water case studies. Hope you enjoy those videos. Now to this week's podcast. Welcome, everyone, to For the Soil, a Conversation. I'm your host, Jeff Ishee, and joining us today, Mary Sketch Bryant with the Virginia Soil Health Coalition. Not joining us today, he's taking the week off. He'll be back on the next episode, Dr. Eric Benfelt with Virginia Cooperative Extension, Community Viability. But in his stead, we have Marian Dalke with Virginia Cooperative Extension. She is in Harrisonburg, Virginia. Welcome to everyone. Marian, would you introduce our special guest today?
Yes, I'm so happy to have with us Nicky Schauder from Permaculture Gardens based in Leesburg, Virginia. Nikki and her family have a wonderful garden project with a lot of great resources online, and she's also a two-time recipient of a Sustainable Ag Research and Education, a SARE grant for her work with compost tea. So happy to have you here, Nikki, and excited to learn more about your work with Permaculture Gardens.
Thank you for having me.
Nikki, to start things off, would be interested in hearing how did you get into growing your own food and teaching? It sounds like teaching is a big piece of your work as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we started when our first two kids were diagnosed. Our first kid was diagnosed with failure to thrive, and then we were looking at all the things that we were doing wrong. Like what was I eating? At that time, I think my maternity diet was Kentucky Fried Chicken and McDonald's. I wasn't paying any attention to anything food wise. And so when she was 18 pounds, or what seemed like 18 months, we thought, okay, there must be something wrong with our food system. And so why don't we grow our own food ourselves? And that's when my husband and I tried to grow very with a lot of enthusiasm, but then failed in the end when we only harvested a few measly tomatoes. So we turned to going to a bookstore. We had a bookstore date and we found the word permaculture in one of the books. And what we found as a result of that was that permaculture was used to green deserts, and reforest large areas in China. And we thought, wow, if that can work there, could definitely work in our backyard. So I got certified in permaculture, and soon after my husband got certified with Jeff Lawton as well. My teacher is Wayne Wiseman, and he comes down here to Virginia now and then. He taught at George Mason University, and that's where I took my course. And then we started growing really well. So then people started coming to us, and because our family grew, we have 6 children. We couldn't be in everybody's backyards teaching personally. So we started giving these modules online and having people come visit us in our house. And of course, we always teach at schools, at our kids' schools. Set up a garden there, got a whole foods grant, a whole kids grant, set up a garden in elementary. We continue to teach until now in the elementary schools, and we'll be teaching in a few days at the Virginia Biological Farmers Conference. The farmers' kids, and the actual farmers. So we're excited about that.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing that. It's such a powerful testament to your own experience and noticing changes that you wanted in your personal health and the health of your children. So thank you for sharing that. Tell us a little bit, what does Permaculture Gardens look like today? Kind of, if we were visiting your home, what would we see if we walked around?
I would like to come back actually to where we started, which was a tiny townhouse in the suburbs of Sterling, Virginia, which is Northern Virginia. And it was super shaded by the actual townhouse. And in that place where we moved from 2 years ago, we had, in the span of maybe 5 years, pawpaw trees, cherry trees, pear trees, all espaliered against the fence. We would have Tromboncino rampicante, which is one of our favorite varieties of squash to grow, climbing up a trellis in the middle, and echinacea, stinging nettle, tomatoes all over. So every possible place we could put it. We have banana trees on our backyard, back porch, every possible place. Inside, we would even put a ledge on the south-facing windows. So there's no excuse. Like nobody, people would come to us, I have no space, and we would show them our small space, and our nurseries were the south-facing windows where we would put in our little microgreens or seed starting trays. And so we had to move out of that house, one, because we were growing up. We wanted to grow so much more. Also, we were getting into trouble with the HOA because we were growing pumpkins in the front and all, you name it, hidden things. We tried to do edible landscaping, hiding everything. And to some extent, it works. Like if you drive down there now, you'll still see our fig tree. But now where we live, it's 3 acres. And oh my gosh, thank you, SARE grants for helping us. So do a lot with this space where we have now a research beds that are dedicated to this compost tea research that I'm doing. Where I mean SARE, I want to talk about SARE in particular. Really is it's amazing. I mean, what other country? I don't know how many. Maybe the first world countries, but where I come from in the Philippines, you don't get paid to do research, and experimental stuff. Farming experimental stuff to do better for what you're trying to grow better. And I was thinking, okay, what can make the inputs of farmers less so that they can earn more, and they don't have, if they wanted to be organic, they didn't have to rely on expensive organic supplements. And also, what if somebody wasn't organic and they were using conventional fertilizer? Would this be, sorry, you might be hearing my kids in the background. What could be a cheaper or low cost or no cost alternative where you're actually closing the loop and using things that would be otherwise gone to waste. So thank you, Sarah, for supporting that project, because now there's so much info that I'd love to talk about compost tea and soil regeneration.
We're talking today with Nicky Schauder. She has a website. It's called permaculturegardens.org, and she and her family are also the creators of a program called GIY. It is Grow It Yourself, and essentially it is a step-by-step program on how to organically and sustainably grow your own produce at home. That's the GIY program, Grow It Yourself, and you can go into all the details there at the website, permaculturegardens.org. But Nicky, you mentioned something a minute ago I wanted to pick your brain on. I think a lot of people, gardeners, farmers, anybody who works with the soil, compost tea.
Yes,
All
compost
right.
tea.
1, 2, 3, go.
So, okay. Compost tea is not really anything invented in the recent times. It's been in use in different forms throughout ancient agriculture. People steeping herbs into water, using that water with herbs to water their gardens, people fermenting rice, and so on and so forth. But I wanted to demystify it because it seemed like there was only one source for information about compost tea. And from here, like, of course, I know that this would appeal more to farmers or more advanced gardeners, because first you got to get yourself growing. And then if you're a beginner gardener, that's where the GIY program, thank you for introducing it, is really helpful, because nobody was teaching us when we first started growing, and we had to learn everything by experiment. And then you start growing and you're like, well, what can I do to grow more, better? And then you start realizing compost is really effective. And then after that part, when you start realizing, okay, compost, how can I make the compost even more powerful? Then you look into stuff like, what is compost tea more powerful? Is it helpful? Is it not? Do I need to do it? Or is it too much trouble because I need to brew according to certain manuals? You need to brew in order to get certain results or certain microbes. So my questions, there's so many questions, like, what are the microbes that I'm growing? Am I growing microbes in my compost? How can I test my compost tea for microbes? And what if each compost tea is different? And then there's other myths as well that people were saying online. If you Google it, Google will say compost tea is not effective. And the main thing, and the other things that even now there's a lot of confusion about, does compost tea provide nutrients or not? And some people will say, no, it just provides the microbes. So I really wanted to make these questions clear so that farmers themselves could decide if they wanted to use compost tea or not, or if it was worth their time. So, and the results of the study were very interesting.
Nicky, as you know, you got into growing your own food. What role has the soil played in the success of your work?
The soil is absolutely essential. I mean, it's all about the soil, right? Which is why you have this podcast, which I love. There's an ecosystem below ground that supports the ecosystem above ground. And we have put a lot of emphasis on the above ground and not enough emphasis on the below ground for many, many years until recently, right? And now that we know that there are three components of soil, the physical component that we see, like we're actually observing it. Is it dark? Is it wet? Is it chocolatey, crumbly? And then do you have the chemical components, which we have been obsessed with for the most of the last century, is just like, well, what chemicals does it contain? Are they the right chemicals? And then not even realizing that most of those chemicals won't get to the plants unless they're plant soluble. And then the third is the biological, that unlocks all that potential of nutrients and minerals and the stuff that they need. And I think the biological is the most interesting because for me right now, because it does a lot of the outsourcing. They outsource to other people. The plants outsource to the biology, but we outsource to the microbiology and the soil. And the more that we can do that, the more lazy gardener we can be.
Great. And so I just wanted to circle back. I know you had mentioned sort of your children being the impetus for the garden. How are they involved today, and how are you kind of passing on all this research and knowledge that you're learning to the next generation?
Yeah, so well, one, they have to help out with all the workshops that we give. They grow the microgreens. They were supposed to be washing trays and things like that right now. Yeah, they're the number one composters. My son is one of them. Now, some kids are better than others, honestly. Some will have different predilections, but I think the younger you start the kids at this, the more they get into it. So yeah, the younger kids definitely grow more than the older kids.
Just a couple of minutes remaining in this episode. And Nicky, I want to thank you for joining us today. And you have agreed to join us for a part 2 of this episode. And in that episode, I'd like to go a little bit more in depth about kind of an introduction to permaculture. What is it for someone who's never even heard that term, permaculture, and talk a little bit more about what you do in those regards. But first of all, tell us again what all is at your website, permaculturegardens.org. If people go there, what will they find?
If you go there, you will find our latest workshop, because we're always giving webinars. You will find a blog on what permaculture is and our compost tea research. But you also find resources to just like challenge you to, for instance, plant your pantry. What if you had nothing at all, no experience at all, and you wanted to plant something? Well, everything you might need to grow a garden is already hidden in your pantry. And that's what one of the things that we have on our website, the Plant Your Pantry Challenge. So
I'm looking at the menu bar now, and there's a lot of resources there at your website.
Yes.
microgreens, all kinds of information.
Yes, all kinds. Thank you.
Well, great. Well, we're going to go ahead and conclude this first episode. And once again, our special guest is Nicky Schauder. She's going to join us for a part 2. And we're going to take a deep dive, if you will, into permaculture and how does that relate to soil health. So stay tuned. We'll be back with our special guest, Nicky Schauder. Mary and Marian, thanks for joining us. We'll see you in the next one.
Thanks, Nicky and Jeff.
Oh, thank you.
For the Soil, a conversation is made possible with funding support from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation and the Agua Fund. Other partners include the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Natural Resources Conservation Service, Virginia Cooperative Extension, Virginia State University, Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation, and partners of the Virginia Soil Health Coalition. Views expressed on this podcast are those of each individual guest. To download a copy of this or any other episode, visit the website forthesoil.org. If you have a specific question about soil health, just contact your local extension office, your local USDA Service Center, or a Soil and Water Conservation District office. Music used during today's program was provided courtesy of the Flip Charts, all rights reserved. For the Soil, a conversation is produced by On the Farm Radio in collaboration with Virginia Tech. I'm your host, Jeff Ishee.